welcome and thank you for sharing this day
I
with
got a
us.
SD card, 64.
Although it's tough, Dad wanted a celebration, and that's where we're going to go eventually. Before we get started, we're going to play a song chosen by Kimmy, the youngest of the 7 children, that may make you tear up, but we promise to turn those tears to cheers throughout the celebration of life. Michael? Had to recruit the nephew to be the sound. Mike, you can turn it up, I think, on the master. Maybe if it's not loud, it's not so sad. Maybe we can read the words. I know. Okay, so the sad part's over for now. On behalf of his children, and so we haven't seen a lot of you guys in a while, and you're probably, like I identified myself just in case I might have changed a little bit since last time you saw me. So I'm just going to do a quick, like, who's in the room, right? So people aren't like, well, who was that? Who's that? Did his kids even come? So right up here we have Kimmy and her family. She's just going to wait. And then here we have Darryl and his family, or part of his family. There's some more back there. Here's my family, Debbie's family with my children and Court. And then Lisa's family over here. So there we have it. Some other folks in the room. So I'll just kind of start from this side. It looks like the table over there is actually folks that work. A lot of them work with me. So they're my work family. So thank you guys for coming. So that's work family. If you're related to anyone of the Rinder, or Kimmy, Lisa, Darryl, Debbie, who worked with them, just raise your hand and we'll kind of call you out. Over here we have, we're well protected. The second table, that's all I'll say. I won't reveal who they really are. But if you're sitting by them, you're lucky. These are friends of Darryl's and Dad's and folks that love my dad. In the middle, as you know, and I'll get to this, we have a big family. So if you were Jim's uncle, or if he was your uncle or cousin, nephew, or whatever, can you guys please raise your hand if you are of the Rinder descent? Whoa! Awesome. That's what we call our blood relatives, right? And they have a whole book on it if you're really interested. It's quite amazing. This center table in the back, Dad worked, and you'll hear more about this in the beer business. And we're happy to have the folks from Pasno distributing and others. So raise your hands, please, my Pasno folks. Kind of in this table right here are neighbors that grew up on El Rito back in the day. Jim was 40, and he was wilder then than he was at 80. But these are our families and friends, so we're glad that you joined us today. And then again, more folks that worked with Dad, neighbors came over to Dad's house. I mean, I think everyone in this room has come over to my dad's house at some point, right? Yeah. Over here we have, obviously, the extended Lisa's family. You'll hear more about the boys that lived up in Running Springs, because we did have a cabin up there. And they had some great, hopefully they'll tell some funny stories about Dad when he was in the cabin. And then again, Kimmy's extended family's back there, Darryl's and Lisa's family. So I think I've kind of just given you just a rundown of who's here today. Obviously, we're all connected some way to Jim, whether you wanted to or not, blood or not. But again, thank you guys for coming to celebrate our dad. Your grandpa, his 10 grandkids. Raise your hand on your 10. And then he has 2 great-grandchildren. Where are they? Little Parker, right here. Hold her up. And we can't hold the other one up, but Alexa, stand up. They were the great-grandkids, and you know, once you're his child, it's one thing, right? And then we have kids and we're nothing, and they're everything. And then when these kids had kids, like your 3rd generation, you're like barely on the books. But Dad was one of a kind. He spoke his mind on all occasions. I have to tell you that. So today we plan to celebrate the life of a great man who lived a good and plentiful life. Hence, the good and plenties on your table. Right? Feel free to eat them, take them, share them. But what you touch, you must eat. Speaking of children, there are 7 of us. Yes, 7. 6 girls and 1 boy. Dad was good looking, funny, and charming, who loved the game of baseball. You could say he scored a few times in his younger days. Hence, Jeannie, Victoria, and Cheryl, our half-siblings, who unfortunately are unable to be here today, but I will try and read their letter today. And then Dad settled down when he met Mom in '61. And he had Lisa, Darryl, Debbie, Kim. And then I already said 10 grandkids, 2 great-grandkids. And soon to double that with the addition of twin girls that are coming on Wednesday. I'm sure you've seen them. And just so you know, my father has already purchased, prior to his passing, before this one was she even out of utero yet? No. And 90% of the toys I think you bought her before I had her. Yeah, so Dad found Amazon, and his credit card was connected to it. And he kept pressing, buy now, buy now. And then he would say, I didn't order that. Dude, you ordered it, right? But he was sending walkers and strollers, and the babies already have, I think, 10 or 12 outfits. I mean, he was just like, they need them. I'm going to order them. So I'm glad to hear, Katie, that Parker is playing with those toys. At first, I thought he was crazy, but I'll take your word for it. So anyways, I'm going to do my best to read. And again, I'm not quite sure. I need to have a kind of conversation with my siblings, like, why do I draw the short straw every time? Like Grandma Rita, my mom, my dad. I think we're done. But I'm sure they'll find another one somewhere along the line. What's that? Right here's okay.
That's what you get when you get that education.
Whatever. Hey, I can talk to board members, but this is a little more interesting. Okay, so let me try to read. This is from Cheryl. She's the oldest, the first. It's pretty funny. I think you can see the humor that is a gene, I think, that runs deep within the Rinder clan. It says, howdy family and friends. I'm so sorry I was unable to be here today to celebrate my dad's long, happy, and crazy life. At least we all agree on that. I'm having this is obviously not me, right, this Cheryl. I'm having major surgery in a few weeks, and per doctors and my sister Lisa, I was told it was not something I could do. I was on my way, but turned around in Utah after the news. I live in Colorado. Doctor said no more than 30 people inside. I've never been to a Rinder shindig with Dad that was less than a couple hundred people. So I'm with you in spirit. We do like to gather, today not under the happiest of situations. I am Jim's firstborn, as most of you know, born when Dad was just 18 and Mom 17. I want to know who their science, sex ed teachers were. That's mine. She didn't say that. Disclaimer. They were high school sweethearts. Jim also told me I was made while he was playing doctor with my mom in the back seat of the Chevy. That was his story, and he was sticking to it. My parents divorced when I was about 3.5 or 4 years old. Jim went away to the Army. We've heard about the Army, haven't we, family? Thank you, Dad, for your service to our country. I looked him up, and we were talking about this. I looked him up when I was 19. Found I had more sisters and a brother. They enriched my life immensely. I am so happy to have them in my life. I also found out I had so many more aunts, uncles, cousins. It was awesome. I was able to spend the last few weeks of Jim's life with him. We made our peace and vowed to meet again. I believe we will. I love my dad very much, as only a child can do. Separation will never dull those feelings. Dad, you are going to be missed. I will see you again. Stay out of trouble, okay? Not holding my breath on that one. Love always, your daughter Charro. Okay. The other one's not so long. She's only been in our life 6 years. And it's like really small print. Like, are you kidding me? So I'm gonna try my best on this one. If not, I'm just gonna make it up. 6 years ago, I met a wonderful, loving, and giving man. My biological father. Getting to know him and him getting to know me was the highlight of my life. His generosity, generally, and his ability to generally care for others, especially, holy cow, especially babies. As we said before, he loved babies. He loved Parker, he loved, like I said, we were nothing after the babies come. Through many visits, sharing, I had a lot of his loving traits, which I have to tell you. We have 3, and I think we would all agree that this one is definitely a Rinder. Like, she is legit. I won't tell that story. I'll save it for later. Let me get through this. He generally cared for others, especially babies. Through the years of many visits, sharing stories, and learning more about each other, I realized I had a lot of his traits. He introduced me to the new family, and I was thrilled to get to know each of them. I'll give you one guess where we all met. Laughlin, Nevada, casinos. It eases the pain of losing all your money. I feel blessed to have known them. My glasses are fogging up, which makes it even worse. I feel blessed to have known them, even for a brief time. He is without pain and in a better place. I am sure he is watching over us and making sure the angels take care of Everly, which is her grandbaby who had open heart surgery, which is why she couldn't come. Again, legit. As she goes through her surgery. That was his caring nature. Thank you, Dad, for being eager to get to know me and my family, and for giving me a new family as well. Sending balloons to heaven for you and Kay on this day. Love, Victoria. There we go. 2 down. Thank God he only had 7. And what I'll say is, just in case you're wondering, my mom knew about all of them. And my mom met all of them. Well, not the last one. So I'll just talk about her now really quickly. She was kind enough not to send a letter, so I'd have to read. So she's probably top of the 3 now. But her name was Jeannie, and she contacted us about just prior to the pandemic. She lives in Connecticut, and for those of you who know me, my work book, I name people things so I can remember them, right? It's Cheryl in Colorado, Victoria in Oklahoma, and Jeannie in Connecticut. And so Jeannie connected. It's got another funny story. For those of you that spit in that little 21andMe or Ancestry.com, be careful. My Aunt Diane, my dad's youngest sister, said, Jimmy, we're all doing this. Are you in? I remember we're at a family reunion. And Dad says, yeah, I don't care. I'm not going to really cuss too much in here, but close to a church. But he said, he said, yeah, I'm going to do it. So he did, and hence we found Jeannie. And Jeannie has a great story, but I'll let her tell you that at some time. But she has come out here a couple times. She's been part of our family, and she's just, again, somebody that we've just embraced as part of our family. Okay, so let me get on. For Dad, the more kids, the merrier. He was one of 13 children, 2 who passed early on, with only one brother remaining, Bill. When asked about his siblings, he would always say quickly, there's Art, Joe, Fent, Ray, Billy, Jimmy, Bobby. Those were all the boys. And then Marge, Donna, Carol, and Diane were the girls. For 86 years of his life, he was a pretty independent, healthy, strong German guy who wasn't afraid of anything or anyone and talked to just about everybody. He loved to disappear for a few days, going to the cabin to visit the boys, Tracy and Jesse. He usually had a quick stop in San Diego to visit his nephew John, who is here with us as well. On his way to Yuma to spend time with his other nephews, Jeff and Tommy. The only thing I can tell you is that Dad was just so cool that he thought he was just getting away, and so he's like, I'm just gonna go and hang out. And he wouldn't really tell us a lot. He would just say, you know what goes on in those places stays in those places. That's all you need to know. And if I make it back, well, he made it back. You could often see him when he was home, splitting wood out in front of the house for his friends Frank and other Glendale police officers, and even the Glendale Fire Department. As they were driving Dad away in the ambulance, he made a couple quick trips to the hospital in March. One when he was in his Santa suit. He would dress up as Santa for Nicole's kids and get on Zoom. And his last Santa appearance was a little sketchy, that's what I'm saying. Right after, he really dropped, and so we seriously had to call 911, and he said, I'm keeping in this damn Santa suit. So as soon as the guys walk in, Dad's like, hey, have you ever seen a Santa? And Dad was great at deflecting what was going on. So as he's in the ambulance for his quick trip to the hospitals, he was offering them wood, which, believe it or not, they took him up on. And finally, remember, this is the El Rito table right here. And finally, after years, there was no more wood in the front yard. The El Rito neighbors are definitely doing the happy dance to not have, I mean, it wasn't little pieces of wood, I mean, it was wood. So at this time, it's appropriate that we ask Glenn, one of the El Rito neighbors, to come up and say a word on behalf of some of the El Rito neighbors. So, Glenn, thank you for being brave and coming on up.
All right, how's everyone doing? I'm a professor. I'll only talk for a couple hours about a PowerPoint, so we're good. So I'm really proud to represent the neighbors. You know, we've lived on the block for a year, and I think the next nearest neighbor has lived on the block for 25 years. And it goes up, and we figured out, I mean, Jim was there 40 years, everybody else is 30 plus years. So we were just so grateful and blessed to move into such a neighborhood. You couldn't ask for better neighbors. And Jim certainly set things off. We moved in, we had a little baby, and first things first, he was like, all right, Glenn, Greg, whatever your name is, get out of here. Give me that little guy. So he was playing with Bennett, my son, and our house is full of like hilarious toys. He's got this safe that speaks only Chinese. Which so anyway, so Jim just hit us with so much graciousness and hilarity, and our only regret is we only knew him for about a year. So we see the legacy he left here as well. I'm going to read on behalf of someone who is really close to Jim, and this is Chip. So the Markharts who live next to us. Jim, as near as I can tell, was like beyond close with Chip. And I think Chip, when he talked about Jim, just lit up and just meant so much to him. So rather than myself rambling on and starting my PowerPoints, I'm actually just going to read a little note from Chip about Jim that he wanted me. So I'm representing the Markharts and everybody else here today. So, and again, send it in a tiny font. So I'm not scrolling Instagram, I'm just looking at my phone to read. So, all right, this is in Chip's voice as well. So, Dick. That's how we started. I still can't believe you're gone. I moved in across the street from the Rinders in 1976 and have known Jim and the family for over 40 years. And how do you describe Jim? Jim was someone that if you met him for the first time, he could completely insult or offend you and be great friends from then on. Jim was funny, offensive, insulting, rude, complimentary, and yet one of the most genuine I've ever met. He had a good heart and never short on advice, good or bad, or otherwise it was his advice. He had names for me like Dick or Roy, but I think that was a name he gave a lot of people. He never called me Dick, just saying. If it wasn't that, it was something else. And if he was around and said that name, I knew exactly who he was calling. Oh yeah, he also liked asshole a lot. So the man was never idle. He was always doing something, going somewhere, buying something from Harbor Freight, same thing, and would buy 2 and 3 of the same thing. If you're going to the after party, go check out that back shed. He gave us so much decorations. It's pretty great. One year he bought 2 blow-up jacuzzis, one for him and one for whoever wanted it. He was well known and respected, and man, could he bullshit. I'm sure everyone here has heard a story come out of his mouth and you just shake your head and say, "You're so full of shit, Jim." And he would say, "Kiss my ass." And he loved his motorhome. That thing had seen a lot of traffic. I remember years ago, my family took it to San Diego and stayed at a campsite with some other families for a summer vacation. What a ride. We felt like the Griswolds. The motorhome made it to San Diego, but on the way home, the heat of July broke down in Tustin. My wife was livid as can. I got on the phone and called Jim and told him to go across the street to my house and get my Suburban, haul ass to Tustin so she and the kids could go home. He, on the other hand, had to find someone willing to tow that beast on a Sunday all the way to Glendale, where it sat in my driveway until it got fixed. A lot of fun memories, but all the Rinders are like that. Caring, giving, welcoming, it's just who they are. I practically grew up across the street. I could go on and on. My kids learned how to swim in the pool. Jim taught my kids how to swear. Trips with Jim to their cabin, towing a trailer full of wood. Jim was everyone's best friend and definitely one of mine. The world definitely has an emptiness to it, at least mine does within God. I will miss him dearly. So, thank you all.
Yeah, so we're really not making this stuff up. So as you can see, we used to joke that Dad was a liability to take out into the community because he really had no filter and always spoke his mind, which I am sure you're going to hear some more stories later. The last 2 years were physically challenging for him, but his mind never stopped. He had some wild and crazy ideas he had to tell tell you about over and over and over again. So if he told you 2 or 3 times, just think how many times we heard it, because he called like all of those people over there and told them the same story. However, you can thank really Jason, who's here, Travis, who spent endless hours on FaceTime with their Uncle Jim, telling stories, drinking a few beers, and dreaming big. It'd be like 11:30, 12 at night, and we're hearing Dad laughing, and we go in and they're FaceTiming, and again, not sure what they were talking about, but it sounded pretty good. Some may not know that my dad jumped out of airplanes and owned the Rinder parachute loft on Fletcher Drive in LA. Thanks to Bob Lewis, a parachuting friend of Dad's, who so eloquently posted the following on Facebook. By the way, Facebook, my father holds the record for being put in Facebook jail more times than anybody I know. First it was 30 days, then it was 60 days. I'm not even sure his account is active. He writes, on April 29th, the world of skydiving lost one of its pioneers and truly one of the greatest characters, Jim Rinder, D165. That'll mean something in a minute. That was his jumping number, as I know. And so when Nicole and I went to Felicity in 2019, we decided it was time to jump out of the airplane. Couldn't understand why the young guys kept coming up to Dad with their like jump books, their log books, and asking him to sign their log book. Because his D165 number in the jumping world is like an antique, truly. And he was, again, one of the first professional skydivers in the world, actually working on the Ripcord TV series during its first season. And so he goes on to say, if you travel to Taft for an old farts boogie, or to any of the skydiving museum events, which my dad traveled all over the United States attending those, it's a really tight-knit group, or even the yearly pioneers or parachuting reunions, you could not miss Jim Rinder, a huge guy with an enormous heart and an even bigger mouth. His boyish enthusiasm and adolescent charm was impossible to ignore. He could walk up to a stranger, I told you he talked to everybody, and say the rudest thing and immediately make a friend out of that person. You could not help but love Jim Rinder. Jim would often call to talk about the great things we were going to do, all the money he was going to spend on his friends, and the parties he was going to throw. Hence, we'll credit him with this party. I say again, you could not help but love Jim Rinder, a tough bird who spoke his mind, but with the heart of a lion. He was a great friend and a real reminder to be yourself regardless. So, Bobby Henry, who was here for my mom's and unable to get here today, he didn't get the memo. He wrote a 4-page letter. I'm not going to read it all. I'm going to summarize about 3.5 pages, no, 3 pages. But speaking of what Bob said about the birds, when I was putting this together and I read this, I thought, oh my gosh, that's going to fit perfectly into this little eulogy celebration. So it goes something like this from Bobby. Bobby and my dad knew each other in the military. Bobby was in the Marines, Dad was in the Army. They were getting ready to be discharged or leave, or I don't know how they got out, I'm not sure, but they got out in like 58, 59. And so the holidays were coming up fast. And he was planning to arrange a vacation time, and he decided to call. So my dad was, holidays, parties, of course, like he needed an excuse, right? But he was going to plan a party and a vacation. So he called his mom to tell him about the meeting that he was going to have with Bobby at Christmas. and that they were going to make some jumps. That was the wrong thing, according to Bobby. This was the wrong thing to do. Of course, his mother said something like, "You shouldn't do this. I had a premonition and didn't want to tell you, but I will now. I had a vision that you had blood all over you. I don't know what happened. Please don't do this." Well, somewhat concerned, he told his mom that he wouldn't. But he followed through with his plans. I wonder where we get it. I'm looking at Lisa. Jim and his brother-in-law, Jerry Boleyn, who is Jeff's father, who's here with us today, got Bobby Henry, remember Bobby's about this big, got him suited up with the coveralls, jump boots, helmet, parachute. Remember, this was like 1960. After a few instructions, the three friends bonded on a Cessna 170 and taxied, now the font gets small, taxied onto the runway. Now, if my dad was to tell me this story, I'm going to go off script for a minute, or tell any of you this story, you would be like, Chip said, he's full of shit. Like, this didn't happen. But Bobby is a credible source. So just keep that in mind as I read this, because I've read it like 3 times, and it's got to be the truth. So they're in the Cessna, and they're onto the runway at one of the air spots, and Jim asked the pilot, what was the delay? Like, why aren't we taking off? The pilot replied, "There's seagulls on the runway." Connection to the bird, right? What do you want to do? Jim says. He said, "Well, can't you just go through them?" Jim says, "We don't have a lot of time before the wind comes up." The pilot said, "Yep, here we go," and proceeded to move full speed ahead down the runway. Bobby, sitting by the open door with his back to the instrument panel, watched the bright-eyed expressions of Jim and Jerry's face. Then, over the roar of the engine, he heard noises like boom, splat, splat, more splats. Thought about his mom's premonition racing through my mind. He thought to himself, "I'm going to die." At 1,000 feet above the ground, the engine sputtering, the pilot asked Jim to crawl outside the plane, hold onto the strut, and pull out the remains of some seagulls that got stuck in the intake manifold. Now I can see this because we jumped out of airplanes, and those people like jump out and hang on them and think it's nothing. I don't know, it's a little crazy. So Jim climbed over me, Bobby, to get on the step outside the plane. Bobby got concerned that the plane was going to crash and would kill us all. But Jim succeeded in removing all that was in the intake manifold. The engine started to purr like a kitty while it climbed to the jumping altitude of 2,500 feet. Even though the plane was running smooth, the plane was on a jump and run. Once again, Bobby had doubts about his survival. Without wasting time, Jim, his jump master, said, "Get ready." That meant that Bobby had to hang his legs outside of the open door. I know some people say, like, why do you jump out of a perfectly good airplane? But I guess in this case, it wasn't perfect. Takes his legs, hangs them outside the open door, and awaits the command, "Get set." He got the command, which meant he had to go on the step and hold on to the strut. But now, frightened jump student said, "Jim, there's blood, like your mother's premonition, and guts and feathers all over the strut." Jim said, "I don't give a damn." He actually said, not those exact words. And it says that in here. "Get out there now or we'll miss the spot." So he composed himself, followed his buddy's instructions, left the step of the airplane, landed safely, and lived happily ever after. So there's Bobby's version of Dad. Kind of crazy. Again, all of you would have not believed that story if it wasn't from Bobby Henry. True? You're all laughing. I hear you on that. Dad, as we've said and heard, was a people person and worked in the beer business for many years. I believe, Darryl can correct me, I believe it was Metro and then Pasno. There might have been a few more in there for 10 plus years. And hopefully you'll hear from some of them a little later in the program. However, I remember Dad came home one day. Dad was 55. And he came home because he was upset about how much money Uncle Sam was making. So Dad retired at 55. Because you know my dad, he's kind of fairly impulsive, doesn't think long term. So again, retired at 55. And at that time, we had all had kids. So he became the personal driver for all of the grandkids. He was Uber before there was an Uber. And that could have been his chance to make those millions that he always wanted. Once he retired and he got the kids to and from school and got them back to their parents, because we all know that's the best part of grandkids, right? Give them back. Pete worked at Tarantino's Pizza in Pasadena and Papalucci's in Long Beach, which was a part-time gig for him. After spending the day with his children and grandchildren, he would socialize at night with the adults over good food and drinks. Dad was a great storyteller and got even better after a few drinks. Dad loved his family more than life. He would do anything for his children, and if you messed with them, he would mess with you. I should tell you, my dad was an avid gun collector. I think most people knew that. However, it didn't stop him. I know he punched out more than a few neighbors in his time. For example, one day the neighbor threw a brick over in the pool, nearly hitting Kimmy in the pool. My dad was like, "Where did that come from?" You guys remember that, right? Kelly's shaking her head. So my dad went over and basically punched him out. Then there was another neighbor. Lisa was the wild child growing up. And her and her friends, who are in the audience today, they went in the back and decided to TP the neighbor's house. And so they were TPing the neighbor's house, and Darryl and I were lookouts. And long story longer, like I swear I heard something in the bushes. So I screamed, and everyone came running in. And then the job wasn't done. So the girls decided to go back. Remember this, Darryl? So the girls go back, and we hear something, and really someone's coming. So Darryl, gentleman, holding the gate open for all the girls. They all come in, and then this big dude starts to come. He shuts the door. We run in. We're like, Dad, some guy's got a knife to Lisa. He says, what? Comes out, walks up to the guy. We say, hey, Daddy's got a gun. He punches him out. He falls in my mother's flowers. My mother says, can you please get out of my flowers? Anyways, again, Jim kind of developed that tough guy, attitude. No one messed with, really, his kids. The last few months, Dad, that's how I feel. Dad really enjoyed the visits from everyone who took time to stop by and say hello. I remember coming to his house after work, and I'll remind you, I'm the only child still working. Something's wrong with that picture. I think maybe it's the educational system or something. I picked the wrong profession. But anyways, I would come home after work, and Dad would say, Debbie, I had a great day. I love this party. Towards the end, he just thought he was on some big party because more and more people kept coming. And he said, I love this party. I love when people come to visit. It makes my day. Thank you for coming to see him when he couldn't come to see you. And you'll see in the slideshow towards the end, we took a lot of pictures around Dad in his bed because we had to come to him, which at first he hated, and then he kind of made, a joke out of it. I'll tell you an inappropriate story real quick about, everyone was having the party, and the nurse came to help Dad relieve himself. And towards the end, it was kind of like suppositories or whatever, and he tells the nurse, "Hey, call everybody in here." And all you guys who were there went. And you all went in there, and then he says, "Okay." And then, of course, everyone ran out. But to the last days, my dad was like the biggest jokester. And we just kind of went with it. So, again, Dad had a great life. We're blessed. And so, I've been talking for probably too long, but I wanted to give you kind of the rundown of our dad in case you might have missed something. So, now it is your turn to share a story or a memory about Jim. But before we start, as many of you know, Dad loved to gamble. We call it church in our family, and we donate regularly. So, as you know, the mega lottery tickets and mega bucks at the casino is where he was always going to hit the millions. So, in his honor, we're going to open up the floor. So whoever speaks will be offered one of the Mega Millions. Oh, there you go. Yeah, I should take them all for as long as I've spoken. That's what I think. But, so what we're going to do is we're going to open up the mic. So whoever speaks will be offered a Mega Millions lottery ticket. When is it for, Kimmy? For Tuesday. If they're legit, Kimmy bought them. Yeah, they're not expired. So whoever speaks will offer you a lottery ticket. We just want to hear some funny stories or memories or inappropriate stuff or funny stuff that our dad shared with you. And we're going to start actually with where'd he go? Uncle Darryl? There you changed on me. You were there. So this is my mom's brother, Uncle Darryl. Obviously, her favorite because Darryl is named after Darryl. And so I'm going to have Uncle Darryl say a few words about Dad from a totally different perspective that, I don't know, you might learn something today. So, Uncle Darryl, I'm going to turn on this mic for you. We're going to give it a shot. Testing, testing.
I'm Darryl Gagne, like Debbie's son and Kay's brother, the younger brother. My older brother Dennis is not here anymore. But I'm from Minnesota, and first of all, I'm here to tell you all that people out in Minnesota that the relatives send their condolences, and they're going to really miss you. It wasn't like we never saw each other. We got together quite a bit during the years. And I'm going to relate to you just a couple of the stories. Maybe other people want to say some other things, but I want to tell you, and this goes way back. We're talking about back in the 70s. And my wife is Chris, and we're married back there in 66, and this is, I think, 56 years, something like that. Anyway, Brad was 4 years old, my son, when we came out to visit Kay and Jim. And we, we had just arrived from Minneapolis and we're all sitting in the living room there. And somehow we got talking about Brad and how Brad was, wetting the bed a little bit. And he's 4 years old and also his pants down. And Jim says, I'll take care of that. And everybody kind of looks around and then he goes and he gets this knife and it was about the size of a cable, that we used to use in the Marines. I was in the Marines. And he gets a K-bar and he gets a carrot. And he says, come up here, Bradley. And so Brad, he goes up there and Jim takes, and he says, Brad, he says, did you see this carrot? He said, pretend this carrot is your weed. And he says, this is what I'm gonna do to you and your weenie if you pee your pants. And then he takes this K-bar, he actually did this, he takes this K-bar to the carrot, and he cuts the dang thing. And Brad's eyes are getting as big as saucer. I don't think he ever peed his pants. All right, anyway, that's one of them. Now, another one is when he came down, we used to, right after we were first married, we lived in Garden City, Kansas, which is way in the southwest corner of Kansas, and Kay and Jim were going up to Minnesota. We lived in Garden City there in 1968. And they came to visit us, and we were in this apartment that we lived in. And somehow we started talking about pheasant. And I said, yeah, we got pretty good pheasant hunting out here. So Jim right away says, okay, well, let's go get some. So anyway, he and I went out road hunting, and we shot 2 roosters. And we bring them back, and we get back to the apartment later on there, and we set them right outside of the apartment by the steps going in because we're going to clean them a little bit later. And we get inside, and Jim says to Kay and Chris, he says, well, we did pretty well. Do you want to see the birds? And so before I could say anything, Jim's out the front door there, and he goes out and he grabs the birds and he's bringing them inside to show them. And one of them was only half dead. And the thing jumped out of his hands and starts running all through the apartment and chasing that dang thing all through. There was blood flying out of it and stuff like that. And, well, that was Jim. Once he decided to do something, you weren't going to change his mind. Anyway, Chris and I met Chris down in San Diego, and I was stationed at MCRD and training boots down there when I was in the Marines. And Jim and Kay always threw a big party for us whenever, we got a chance to come up here to LA. And we could bring 2 or 3, other couples or whatever. It didn't matter. They would just say, yeah, bring them all up. And so we did that. They always were very good about that. And Chris and I were actually engaged at their cabin up there in Big Bear back in 1966. But there's something special about Kay and Uncle Jim. They both had really big hearts. I don't know how many stories we've heard about them having these softball parties for the kids. and all of that stuff, and all these birthday parties and all of that. And there was one time, and this goes back about 30 years ago, I was on the phone talking to Kay from Minnesota, and we were talking for about 10 minutes, and I started hearing all this noise in the background, everybody running around and all of that stuff. And I said, what are you doing, having a party, you know? And I said, well, you know, what's happening? And Kay said, yeah, just a minute. Jim, what are we having a party for today? Didn't even know that there, you know, who was coming that day for the party. But anyway, they did have big hearts, and you know, they loved the kids and always stuck real close to the kids and really had a good time with them. I got another one note here. I don't know where the main Budweiser warehouse is in the country, but I do know this. I do know where you know, half of the beer mugs, blacks, and Romenos are. We're up in Minnesota. Jim would bring a bunch of them up every time you know, they came to visit us. So he had a big heart. And, you know, I like to get into genealogy and, you know, in closing, there's an old saying on one of our great-grandfather's tombstones, and it describes both Kay and Jim, I think, really pretty well, and it goes like this. Have you had kindness shown? 'Twas not meant for you alone, pass it on. Let it travel through the years, let it wipe another's tears, till in heaven that deed appears, pass it on. Thank you.
Who's next? I saw that hand. I'm a teacher, man. I can see a hand from a mile away. Introduce yourself. There, there's a winner right there, buddy.
Oh,
You know my dad.
winner, chicken dinner.
There you go.
Oh, God. My name's Al G. I work with you a long time at Pasco Distributing. And I want to thank him for getting my wife and I that beautiful bouquet. You did a great job, Nicky. Pasco family, all the family, this is a celebration. I could hardly find it. I mean, we went over there, all the doors were locked. All the doors were locked. And then, oh, where was that sign, Darryl? Where was that sign, Darryl? But anyway, I just remember we used to have a Montrose Christmas parade. And Rinder, here he is, typical Rinder. He used to drive, and we'd be throwing out beads and keychains and everything. And the big thing about it is, he says, get in the truck. And we had this nice van. I just go like this. I get in the truck and he didn't have any pants on. And I'm going, where did your pants go? He goes, well, they're in the back, but you know, in case I have to go to the restroom, you know. I'm just going, I can't believe that guy. But the big thing about it is, he jumped out of planes like a nut. And I'm just going, okay, I just remember him telling me how many jumps he had. And I said, is that how come you walk that funny? I'm not kidding. And then plus, he got more handsome as he got older. I'm not just going, we all get old and stuff like this, but you know what, man, he was a good looking man. He was a good looking man. And he had a great family and a bunch of great friends. So just remember that, because I do.
Thank you. Who's next? Freddie, I'm going to call you out. You said that,
Wait a second. This is technology.
oh, that's right. Well, we need 5 minutes, at least 5 minutes. It's a good thing you have her.
Okay, I can read it.
Do you want to stay here? Some things you may not want to hear. Okay, for those who don't know me, I'm Fred Rinder. I'm one of the older group of first cousins. So as I'm speaking, I'm sure every one of you guys back there are going to go, yeah. Yeah, we grew up with that. Jimmy was a great uncle. He really liked us older nephews, and he exposed us to a lot of things. Going into puberty, one of the best things you wanted to hear was Uncle Jim's going to be at the reunion. And we could watch all of our aunts and mothers just go crazy. We don't want you listening to him. Don't go anywhere near him. Don't use those words. Guys? My earliest recollections with Jimmy, and I kind of grew up with Charro. And I didn't know the whole story back then, so. But being real little, Jim had a motorcycle. One of my first traumas in life. Jim said, get on the back. So we get on the back, and for those of you that knew Grandma's house, there was a street, it was called 40th Street. They renamed it later Wabash Freeway, and I think it was because of Uncle Jim. We got on that motorcycle, I think I might have crushed his ribs. He was going so fast. I jumped off, I was shaking, screaming, and he goes, wasn't that fun? I go, sure, Uncle Jim. Well, then a little bit later, I might have been 8. My dad had gotten a 1953 Mercury Monterey, rebuilt the engine. And Uncle Jim says, your dad's going to drive this like a little old lady. We need to burn the carbon out. Get in. There's no seat belts. We're going down 40th Street, Wabash Freeway. I saw that thing tick out at 110. Comes back, parks the car, and he goes, it's good now. Of course, now I'm all shaken. So I'm never riding motorcycles. So someone asked me earlier, I think it was my wife, said, did Uncle Jim ever try to get you to skydive? I go, hell no, he scared the shit out of me so many times. Why would I want to jump out of an airplane, you know? But there was I think I told it at Aunt Kay's story, the kids never knew. Uncle Jim liked being around us, and he took us to a Dodger game. Might have been 14, 15, and I don't remember what cousins were there. But we went to the game and he bought us beer. 14, no big deal. So rite of passage for Rinder. If you made it to 14, you're late. So we went to the game. It was Sandy Koufax and Warren Spahn. I'll never forget it. 2 great pitchers. So we get back to whatever apartment he was at, and you know, we're only 14, 1 beer, we were rocked. So we're jumping off the second balcony into the deep end of the pool. And they turned the lights out. So when the manager came, we're hiding in the deep end in the dark, underwater, laughing. So the manager goes away, we go up, and Aunt Kay's there, and I'm figuring, oh, boy, are we gonna get it? She goes, so, you boys had fun? Are you hungry? And that's kind of how it was. Being around Uncle Jim and Aunt Kay was just a great, great, great thing. But there is a side of Uncle Jim. Well, I'm going to go to both sides. I was very fortunate. My wife's birthday was April 20th. We were going to plan on going to Solvang. Kind of got the message that Uncle Jim wasn't doing too well. So we decided, Lisa, we're coming, I'll just get a motel. She said, no, you can spend the night with your Uncle Jim. Oh, okay. I had some great time talking with Uncle Jim. My parents divorced when I was very young, and it was Uncle Jim, rotten Uncle Jim, who kept in touch to see how I was doing. And he did a couple things that he didn't have to do. So I thanked him. And typical Uncle Jim, you couldn't hug Uncle Jim. He just went, no big deal. And so I talked to him later, and I went, I asked Aunt Carol, she was always mad because she always had to change our diapers. And I go, Jim, did you have to change my diapers? He goes, yes. I said, you know what? This is Uncle Jim. He goes, I didn't think anybody could amount to anything with a dick that small. Thank you. And that's the way it was. The job I had, I was out in the field a lot dealing with wildlife, and I had 2 of my employees with me. Out in the field, we were helping some growers take care of some pigs. So he calls me and it's on the flip phone. So I put it on speaker. And so I go, hey, how's it going? He goes, hey, Dick, what are you doing? And these 2 guys are going, I go, hi, Uncle Jim. Yes. So I left it. And it was Dick this, Dick that, asshole, this and that. And they're going, what is this guy? And I'm going, well, Jim, we're doing pretty good, blah, blah, blah. And I said, oh, Jim, I got bad news for you. And he goes, what's that? I said, I think we killed one of your old girlfriends. And he goes, oh, asshole, not the blonde. And I went, no blondes in this stack. Anyhow, he went on. And Uncle Jim's language, these guys are dying. And they're going, you're an awful lot like him. I'm going, I know. So at the very end, he says, all right, we'll see you later. And he goes, hey, be somebody. Now, if you're one of us, because we've heard that our entire life, be somebody. The 2 guys look at me and they go, is that where you got it from? Because every time I would train them and send them to the field, I said, all right, guys, you've been trained, now go be somebody. I go, yeah, this is the guy that instilled that in me. And so what I wanted to do, I gotta wait for me to catch up with technology. There's a side of Jim. We all know the rotten side. But there was another side. And after I thanked him for what he did, it was no big deal. And I told him, I said, Jim, I've known all along. I've been very loyal to Uncle Jim because of the loyalty he showed me. And I said, you're just a marshmallow. He goes, asshole. Right? So, I heard about this. Is that going to get bigger?
Bye.
Moral support.
How does this work? Hello. My name's Anna. I'm one of the nieces of Uncle Jim, and my dad was the brother of the youngest brother, and he Uncle Jim came and moved everything for me. Dad's trailer, we had to move him, he was sick. And I said, I need to get him here, where I'm close by where I live, which is Temecula. And Uncle Jim loaded him up, got all the stuff from the cabin, drove him out there to me, and he did it all. And if it wasn't for him, I don't know what I would have done. And I even wrote him a card and said, thank you so much, Uncle Jim, you were my angel. And I think that's the marshmallow part of him. And I saw that too when I saw him last. And we were leaving, and he was his typical self, but I saw the marshmallow in him too. And I know it's there. And I was leaving, and I said, I had bright pink lipstick on, and I said, okay, I go, we're gonna go, Uncle Jim, because it was Becky, me, Aunt Marie. And he goes, okay, and then I said, I'm gonna give you a big kiss on your forehead. And he said, okay. And he lifted up his head, and I gave him a big kiss on the forehead. And I saw a different part of him too. That's why we've talked about the marshmallow and Uncle Jim. And yeah, he did a lot for me, and I'm very, very appreciative for it.
Who else? If not, I've got 47 Mega Million lottery tickets. Jimmy.
Well, I'll give it a shot here. Forgive me. What can I say about Jim that we can't say without mentioning Kay? I first met Kay. My name is Giamela. I've had a shop in Montrose since 1987. And Kay used to come over, get her car small, work on it, probably about 88, 89. Wonderful lady, wonderful lady. I ended up working for the Bureau of Auto Repair for a couple and a half years, and so I kind of got away from this life, and I went up to do jury duty one day, and I saw Kay there. And so we got to talking and stuff, and I was like, gosh, at first I didn't think it was her, because what's she doing in this, this kind of environment? I thought I was far away from my old life. But we got to know each other. She gave me a lot of good advice about me and my son. And then I remember Jim Rinder, when he first retired, he came into the shop. And like Chip said, when you first meet him, he can offend you. And so I'm Mexican. And my folks are from a state in Mexico called Jalisco. That there's a guy named, a famous singer named Juan Gabriel, and he was gay. And so there was like this, people used to make fun of people from Jalisco, So it was the saying that he said when he came in was, hey, I'm looking for that puto from Jalisco. This guy, right? Then he says, and also, grew up in a ranch, we had goats and stuff. I'm looking for somebody to smog my goats. What the heck, who is this guy? Does he know something or who's talking? Turns out he used to be parachuting down in Mexico a lot. And he was doing stunts and stuff. And he also told me about, I guess he parachuted with Fidel Castro's cousin or brother or something. And I guess he also jumped with Johnny Carson. Something, so he didn't think much of Johnny Carson. But so over the years, we got to be good friends. But I knew his kind right away. This guy had a great heart. I mean, he was a big kid. He used to say dorky jokes that he would laugh at himself. And I would laugh with him because I didn't hear these things since like 3rd grade or something. He let it out of his system. But when I go over his house, there's no kidding. You go look in the garage, and everything was, it was a grandkid's house. Everything, there's food, there's water, there's Cokes, there's everything. And so he loved children. You know, he got that batting cage in the back. My nephew ended up practicing. And one day, and he like come up to the shop. You know, he used to get away from the house and hang out. One day I donated to, the raffles for the schools. And one day here he comes. He's got a little basket. And I had donated 5 raffle tickets for 3 small checks. And he goes, look what I want. And son of a gun, he said 5 raffle tickets. I thought they were going to do it individually, right? But he wanted 5 small checks, 3 small checks. And I keep thinking over the years, son of a gun, I think I've done like a dozen. Well, I might have, I don't know. I didn't really keep track, but it turns out this guy had a printer and he was doing all this good stuff. It was a joy. Then one day, so, hey, can I drive your Nova? Go ahead, Jim, whatever you want. He comes back later on the day, God darn, that thing got no power steering. And he said I was sore for a week. Then one day, he liked to drop his trowel everywhere, right? And he tells about the story where he's out camping, he's waving to somebody, and they're looking at him, and they're going by the quad. And he says they didn't recognize him. He turns around and drops his trowel. Oh, hi, Uncle Jim. So one day he goes, hey man, I do it to come over, hang out at the house. So we go swim. I was stressing out. So I go, spent the day with him. It was afternoon. It was a great time. He let me use the swimming pool. Then he goes, the sauna's ready. So I go there, give him the sauna. Then he's firing up the barbecue. Then he goes, hey, let's get the jacuzzi. All right, go ahead, put your back against those jets. Pretty comfortable. So I did for a while. Then when I get out, I go, damn, Jim, my back is burning. What's going on here? Take a look. I got 3 spots on my back where the jets were just drilling. I said, what'd you do? Oh man, I must put too much bleach in there. And I guess he goes, really? He goes, yeah, you can't drown crabs. Yeah. So then, Mr. Jokes, he always good jokes. Anyway, he laughed and chuckled and stuff. So I remember the time he comes, I never really saw him upset, but this might have been his upsetness. But I knew he was a big softie, you can tell right away. He wasn't for me. But I remember he comes in, God damn, what's going on, Jim? That Kay, oh, by the way, he was one of those typical, beautiful, married men. He'd come over and he'd get out of his system by his wife, and then the phone would ring. Oh, I gotta go, that was Kay, I gotta go through the trash can. So he comes in that one day and he's all upset. He says, that damn Kay, oh now, Jim, she just sold all this property in Bullhead. I told her, leave me a little bit of spending money on my account. If I didn't have overdraft protection, I would have bounced a check. I go there, what's this, Kay? You just left me $65. Where's my cut? That's for the children. Those are for the kids. But yeah, that was Jim. Then I got some more stories, but I'll probably forget all of them here. But it was a pleasure, and I feel special that the family, Lisa and everybody, allowed me to visit my buddy Jim. I saw him when he first started getting sick. And I was there the day that he left us. But yeah, he was all about the children, all about the grandkids. He loved a good barbecue. Chip would come over. I wrote some notes on my thing there, but I guess I forgot. But yeah, Jim was a softie. I'll turn it over to somebody else, but he was a great guy, and I'll miss him. And everybody miss him.
Yeah, Jimmy spent a lot of time with Dad, and it was kind of nice because it gave us a break because, we were pretty much full time towards the end. So Jimmy would just be like, I got it. And then, Dad would just, talk stories and, print pictures, take pictures. How many times did Jim take a picture of Jim and said, send it to me. Before you left the house, how many copies of that picture did you have? Swear to God, like 10. Anybody else want to say a couple things? Jason. Uh-oh.
Yeah, we won't go there. Just want to say I'm Jason's nephew, and I'm the one that would be on the phone at midnight with him on FaceTime. And it wasn't always me calling him. He called me once, and I'm like, "Where are you at?" "I'm going to the bathroom." I go, "Why are you FaceTiming me right now?" He goes, "Well, I have nothing else to do. I'll be sitting here for a bit." I'm like, "Okay, well, call me back." But anyway, he's a great guy. And there was a few other nephews a couple years ago. We went out and he said, "Hey, let's act like Uncle Jim today." Well, that was a couple years ago, and I think the other nephews will get out of jail in a couple more years. Now, that is a joke, but he was one that could get away with it. Most people can't. I believe he liked me. However, he tried to push his rat infested parachute off on me probably 10 times. "It's from the 70s. Here, you can have it." I go, because I had started skydiving at that time. I'm like, "No, I don't want it." So anyway, and the other thing, I should have wrote some of this down, but I that page is this tall, talking about how great he was and how much he made me laugh. My son, Josh, maybe 10 years old, he realized his name was not Roy. And Uncle Jim, Hot Wheels, you know, always thought about the kids. Great heart. But I think that's all I got. But yeah, it's great.
I'm Jeff, one of Jim's nephews, and Uncle Jim as well. In the last few years living in Yuma, he was like a dad. But at 12 years old, I think he's 12, Aunt Diane flew his brother, his sister, and me out to Burbank. First time on a plane, we fly into Burbank. We got the back shack, everyone's been there. It had pinball machines, it had pool tables, it had beanbag chairs, we got everything, it's killer. We go to the beach, we're having a great time. I'm at the stove, Uncle Jim's right here. I'm sitting there, I'm 12, and the Uncle Jim's being badass, this is fun, you know? And he looks over, and he's cooking hot dogs. Well, he didn't grill hot dogs, he would just boil them. And he looks over at me, and he goes, "You ever been slapped in the face with a wet hot dog?" And I go, "No." Pulls it right out of the pack, and just goes back and forth. All the crap that I went through with him, I still remember that like, to that day. And then, once I'm in Yuma, and he's out there, what stays in Yuma, what happened in Yuma, stays in Yuma. And I don't think any more kids are coming out of that. We had an awesome time hanging out the last few years, and just playing, driving roads, being racist, you know, whatever. You always had to have something out there. Yeah. "Oh, look, cotton. Oh, whoa." And one day we were out and we were eating Jack in the Box tacos one day and having shake, driving the dirt roads. And I go, "Man, I love these shakes." And I go, "You want my cherry?" And he goes, "Oh, I love the cherries." So he's eating the cherry. The next day, I go, "What do you want to eat?" "Let's get some more tacos and another shake." That was cool. Well, if I could get him to eat, I would get him to eat. So we go get more tacos. Well, I can eat those so fast. We're driving, and I go, "How many did you eat?" I said, "I think we bought 8. He was gonna have 2 that day, so I was gonna have 6. Well, I'm driving and eating, and I go, "Count the wrappers. I think we got ripped off." And he goes, "There's 8 in there." He goes, "You eat them so fast, you don't lose count." And I go, "Well, how many did you eat?" He goes, "I had 2. So I go, "Okay, cool." So we're playing around, but our last few years of playing in Yuma, it was just like, everyone here knows he said what he wanted to say. We're at Walmart. We're buying 22s and 410s. We're like shells. And COVID had just kind of started, and the glass was up there. He comes in and he goes, "Oh," he goes, "I think I need to get more ammo." He goes, "You never have too much ammo when you're robbing a bank." And we're at the counter. And I go, "Would you shut up?" And he goes, "I'm 85 years old. I can say whatever I got there, please." And I said, "Not when you're with me," because I said, "I'm not going to jail." And then he tells the guy, he goes, "How much can I buy?" And he goes, you can buy the whole shelf if you want, but see this sticker here? Can't cross state lines. He goes, well, I have a place down here. He goes, well, then you're good. So I thought we were gonna buy all the ammo, even though he didn't have all the guns. But yeah, he was crazy. My dad and him started skydiving in like 1960. And there's a picture, it was coming up, I don't know, they're in white, Bobby Henry's in there, Uncle Jim's in, my dad. And one of their stories was, my mom verified it, Uncle Jim verified it, my dad verified it. They're skydiving. As you guys know, Uncle Jim was big, badass out of the army. My dad's a lot shorter, badass too. They're skydiving, they go in, and my mom's good looking blonde. He comes out, someone's talking to my mom, and my dad tells my mom, he goes, go get in the truck. And my mom's like, no, Jerry, really? He goes, go get in the truck. Our old Chevy Apache. Uncle Jim's his backup. Mom goes in the truck, a few minutes goes by, he comes out, what did you guys do? I know what they did. Uncle Jim took about 6 or 7 guys, and they were all laid out on the floor, because my dad's fighting one, and they're jumping, and they beat the crap out of these guys. I know they did it twice, in Lake Elsinore, skydiving. I mean, I heard these stories, I know it, I lived with them, talked to my dad about it. Yeah, he definitely a one of a kind. Love my Uncle Jim. Is this good for you?
Yeah, you better leave that for us. So let me just tell you a quick story about the Yuma house. So, you know, Dad has his house here. He has his cabin up in Running Springs. And then Jeff moves down to Yuma. And then Tommy, I think it was Jeff bought his place. And then my dad comes, you know, when he left, he's like, goes down to Yuma. And I think the story goes something like this, because this was my dad, right? He says, yeah, I'm gonna go hang out with Jeff. I think I'm looking to maybe buy a place. And I'm like, Yuma? Okay. Like, it's like 5.5 hours. Dad's like 85. And he could still make that drive at 85. So he comes home after being with Jeff, and he's like, hey, Debbie, I was walking around the neighborhood with Jeff, found a house that said for sale by owner. So we went in. So, I don't know, I'll just make up the story of how it really goes, but at the end of the day, my dad comes home and he's like, talk to the guy, he's a snowbird from Canada, just lost his wife, I just lost my wife, and so I need you to just get me some money because we shook hands and I bought the house. Oh, he
wrote a check for $1,000 for buying it.
Yeah. So he writes the check and then he says, and I'm buying, so just make it happen. So my job towards the end was just, okay, Dad, we'll just make it happen. So hence we have a Yuma house, and he was all good until he was there in the summer. And then it was like 1:15. It's like, God, Debbie, I need to make a new rule. I said, really, Dad? You don't follow rules? He says, I can't go down there unless it's under 90. It's gonna kill me. And I'm like, okay. So he'd only go down. Actually, Kim probably won't get up and tell the stories, but she was the Uber. One day, she would come over to the house and Dad said, come on, let's go to Yuma. And Kimmy's like, retired, right? The youngest retired, something's wrong. And so she would load Dad up and they would disappear. So Dad passed in April. I want to say, was it November? Come on, help me with the months at least, sister. Right. So they go in June. Dad gets all the way down there. Typical. There is no
We have a car, we're like, Dad, where are the keys? He's like, oh yeah, I got the keys. And I'm like, it's like 120 degrees out. My dogs are in the car. And we have no freaking key to the house. And Jeff is gone and Tommy's gone. And we're stuck out there on a Sunday. And we have to call a locksmith. Yeah.
Not to spend money, but you wanted to do.
Exactly. So now there's a lockbox on there with a code.
Yeah, but, you know, those were the things. Dad had everything except the key.
How many times he didn't have the key?
So he had a lot of keys. But anyways, anyone over on this side want to talk? Oh, you don't get another lottery ticket, though. I mean, I'm just holding out one and
So, like we said, he's 85. He's still driving out to Yuma, so he called me. I'm on my way. Okay, so 5 hours. Oh, 7 hours goes by. 8 hours goes by. Oh shit, where is it? Oh, I go over and stop at Giamela Elks in Alpine. So he go down San Diego, go bullshit around, and head out. He had the little hoopty, the little Honda. Oh, that car gets 40 miles a gallon. Oh, it's great. Was driving, I'm at home. I'm like, oh, where is he? He calls me, he goes, I ran out of gas. He goes, I'm trying to get to Yuma to get the cheap gas, and I ran out of gas. And I go, but that car gets like 400 miles, and you're telling me it's 40 miles a gallon? He goes, well, I don't know. I've been going like 90 to try to get there, and I guess I used up all the gas, and I stopped at the queue at the casino just to look at it. If I didn't stop, I probably could have made it. So I go, all right. I go, where are you? So he's about 4 miles from state line. So I go, I've got gas in the garage. I'll be there 15 minutes. So I'm going down the 8. I'm looking for him. There's the hoopty, and he sees my truck coming, and I wave, and I have to go to the next exit. And as I'm pulling in, everyone knows he was a mooner, right? I mean, he dropped it. In the old days, you just turn around, he's mooning. In that picture up there, to moon now, it's about a 5-minute process to get down. So I get on the exit, I'm pulling in, I'm like, oh boy. And I pull in, and he's got his pants, and he's getting them halfway down, and he's just thinking it's so funny to moon. And I pull over, and there's a highway patrol pulling in behind me because I'm pulling over. And I was like, pull him up. And the stupid new gas thing, I can't get the gas to go in, so I'm just chugging it in there. I said, we'll get to Yuma. He's over talking to the highway patrol, and I hear, I'm like, let's just get out of here. His pants are up. And then I hear him tell the highway patrol, oh, I bet my nephew could outshoot you. I go, oh, what are you talking? Hey, you like your job? Like you said, you can meet anyone. Hey, you like your job? And he's, yes. I go, come on, let's just go to Yuma, get cheap gas, and go home. And he was there, but I never forget that phone call, because it was 5 hours, but he never got there 5 hours. It was always 9 hours at least, because he had to stop and say hi. But
yeah, especially I think it was 10 or 11 with Kimmy, because I think they've hit, oh, I'm going to give you up. I think they hit every casino from here to Yuma. And Dad was, yeah, and, you know, towards the end, Dad wouldn't even go in because it was hard for him to walk around. So he would just send Kimmy in with money, go find the Mega Machine, FaceTime, sit in the car. I mean, we were like totally indulging him in his gambling addiction. Crazy. You're up. Come on, man, lottery ticket, baby.
My name is Tracy. This is Jesse. We own the house across the street up in Running Springs.
From the cabin. And Jimmy used to come all the time, always, like they were just talking about lost keys. I think if it would have been for us having the spare key to the cabin across the street, probably anyone that's ever gone up there never would have got in.
Jimmy and I used to call each other, and if I called him 9 times out of 10, what you doing, old man? Masturbating. and he called me up with his nonsensical plans of a 1,200 square foot garage in the front yard of the cabin, and a $90,000 tree house. You know, this has not materialized.
Plenty of stories from Uncle Jimmy, yeah. All together missing.
We talked about him to all of our friends, and
he would call at least once a week and want to know what's going on.
Our best friend shows up one day, and Uncle Jimmy happens to show up the same day. I'm like, you gotta meet this guy. We go across the street, and it's mother ever this, and goddamn that, and asshole something, and a whole bunch of racist jokes, and we leave, and she's like, I can't believe you like that joke. I love my friend Jimmy. I will miss him forever.
And one more thing for the people on El Reno Street, he moved all that firewood, and that firewood split into Furwood Drive.
You both speak it too, right? That's funny. Yeah, it was, as all I remember Jim saying is that Jim would go over to your house and you guys would get a little lit up.
Just a little.
And then the only agreement was that
We had to walk him home.
you have to walk him home and make sure he gets in bed. That was our only rule. And sometimes, if you walk in snow and ice, sober, it's tough. Once we stand in front of something. Anyways, I know we're going a little long, but I just think if there's any other folks that want to publicly tell some stories, now's your time, or we'll wrap it up.
Look, that's where you came to the shop one time and have a beer.
Okay, just for the record, these are my work family, and so what you heard here today needs to stay here, just for the record.
How you doing? JR? Most of you don't know me. I'm glad of it. Anyway, I had very limited conversation or interaction with Jim. I met the Rinders. We met the Rinders through softball. I made love with every, and one of the stories, I'm a training officer, so I have my training at In-N-Out. Let's go get food. We're not allowed to go through the drive-thru. Gotta go to the window in case we get a call. So I'm waiting for my food, and I have my back turned to the drive-thru, and I hear, officer, and that was calling me. Deputy. Turn around and Jim, he goes, by the way, the weed you sold me last night, no bueno. They're looking at me like, oh. My trainer goes, do you know the guy? Goes, no idea what that is. Second one, I'm on Ocean View, turning to the station, and I have a suspect in my back seat that's going to jail. I'm waiting to turn, and Jim is to the right. I didn't know, and he's waving and all that, and I'm like, I don't even want to mess with him right now. I finally figured, hey, what's going on, I roll the window down, and he goes, oh, you taking the jail now? Don't you used to kill him and dump him up in the canyon? And poor bastard that I had in my backseat, his eyes just lit up. Like, I'm just messing with you. Don't listen. And the third occasion, I have my old ID for training, a different occasion, and I'm driving on Foothill Boulevard. And my trainer goes, sir, I think this guy's trying to get your attention. Maybe something's wrong with him. And I'm looking at him, oh, here we go again. He gets close, he lowers his window, and he goes. Don't even worry about it. So those are my 3 short stories. By the way, one more thing. Jim had a favorite cop. He always bragged about him. It wasn't me though, it's right here. Frankie this, Frankie that. Yeah. Okay, there you go, Frankie. That's good.
I'm Frank Segura. I work for Glendale, and I met Jim. Actually, I received a call to his house. I guess they were having a party at his house, and one of the cars was blocking, the sidewalk or the driveway. So I respond there with the solo officer and see this car. There's lots of cars in the driveway, some blocking the sidewalk. So I go knocking on the door. And when I knock on the door, Jim opens the door. And I said, sir, I'm just here because I guess someone called regarding this car blocking the driveway. Well, Jim started with his sense of humor and we just started talking and we forgot about the car that was blocking the sidewalk. And, and anyways, I told him, hey, I'd like to you know, we struck up a conversation, and it just kind of grew from there. And you know, he was telling me how he, at one point in his life, he wanted to be a police officer, but he took the exam and he didn't pass the exam. And I said, so why didn't you take the exam again? And he's like, I don't know, I didn't feel like I should do that. But our friendship grew from there. You know, I met his wife Kay, I met his kids, wonderful family, and our relationship just grew. You know, I consider them, you know, family, and Jim, you know, a great friend. You know, his wife, you know, one day, it was evening hours. Every single time I'd go to his house, his wife Kate would come out with a bowl of fruit. You know, whether it was grapes, watermelon, but she would always come out with fruit for me, and always wanted to give me food, you know, for dinner or whatever. I was on duty, so I was working, but there's no words to express how, you know, the loss for Jim, you know, the friendship. You know, I pass by the house pretty much every time that I work, and it's a great loss. It really is. But the way I look at it is this, you know, I was out in Oregon with my family a couple of days ago, and we're looking at the big redwoods, you know, and just immense trees. And when we're hiking, you know, we saw some of these big redwoods that had fallen, tipped over, and then some that were still standing. And you see that the wind, you know, as time goes on, the wind breaks off some of those branches, and then some branches are still there. But the way I look at it is that I was blessed. You know, my family was blessed to have known Jim, to you know, to have known you know, the family and so on. You know, he would always call me, you know, hey, what are you doing? You know, what's going on in Glendale? And you know, I was telling him, hey, you know, this is what's going on. Hey, come by the house, you know, come get some food or whatever. My wife or my daughter Lisa will, you know, make something for you. And every once in a while I'll stop by because he really wanted me to come by. And he's just such a great friend. The family, you know, kind of embraced our family, and you know, I can't say enough about them. You know, I love them. I love Jim. I love Kay. You know, but back to the trees. So the way I look at it is this. You know, I was looking at these immense trees, and I saw this big redwood that had fallen, and you know, I thought about that redwood. That at one point in that redwood's life, it was a seed, and it grew with all these huge branches. And as time goes on, you know, wind or whatever breaks off some of these trees. Well, as that tree grew, you know, I thought of Jim, and I thought, you know, in that tree's life, in Jim's life, how much I wish I would have known him when I was much younger. You know, I was probably one of those branches way up, you know, one of the newer branches, and all those branches that have grown or even broke off, those were people in his life that, whether or not they, you know, they were in his life in one point in time, and some of those went away, whether they just went away, and some of those branches were still there, and that's you. You're still there in that branch of his life. You know, you'll always be there. And I thought of that tree that had fallen. Yes, Jim is no longer here with us, but he's still is there, and that oak tree still, I mean, that redwood still had those branches, and that's all of us. You know, we're still part of his tree of life, in a sense. So I just wanted to leave off that, you know, I love him. I will always think of Jim, you know, and that me and my family and you all are blessed to have ever met Jim, or whether you're family or friends. But I thank you, family, for inviting me to this ceremony. I'm blessed, and you're all blessed to have met Jim, and thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna make my way back to the stage, and then we're gonna close this up because we've been going. You wanted to say something?
Just one of the most embarrassing points that he got me on. We were at a family party. There was a lot of friends, a lot of people that didn't know him, and he made a point to walk up to me. It was a joke that you guys, multiple of you have heard, and he acts like he's whispering, but he's saying it kind of loud. He says, "Hey, it was me and my friend were molested by the priest, but we loved it." And then he kind of would sit there next to me, and anyway.
Yeah, I know, and you know what? We want to believe that he's in heaven. I don't know. You know, when we hear about all these stories, I'm just saying, we have heard that, you know, he enjoyed it, but Dad was truly an altar boy, legit. He was an altar boy, and then we'll just leave it at that. We did have the pastor come in and do the last rites, and the house didn't fall down, so I think we're good. But Freddie just wants to say one more thing, and then we'll wrap it up.
You know, and older cousins, 1970, most of us were just getting out of the service, war was ending and all that stuff. The biggest thing we wanted to do is go to the family reunion. And there was always a big one, somebody's house. So I met a young lady, kind of tall. So go to the family reunion, and she's sitting on this bar stool. Uncle Jim walks in, throws his keys in front of her, bends over and goes, "Hi, I'm Jim Rinder. Do your legs go all the way up your neck?" That was the first test. She failed.
Okay, we're gonna wrap it up here, and then for those of you that still really want to tell that story but didn't, there's gonna be people around. I'm sure you'll have an audience. Thank you guys all for your stories about Dad. I'm almost done. Thank you all for coming to share the stories and memories of a great man. We have all been so blessed by his presence. I hope one of you guys win that Mega Millions. Before we close, all he wanted us to do when he passed was sing this song. To prove it, I will show you a little video that I took, and then I'm going to have us all stand, and we're going to sing this little song that I told my dad that I would do for him. And because it would be a little kind of insensitive, which I think you would probably expect, I told him, I said, Dad, I need to record this so I can play it. So one, you guys can hear the tune, right? But two, that he gave me permission to do this. And if I don't, I only get one chance. So if I don't do it, I will probably be in trouble. So he still rules from heaven. So Michael, I think watch Nicky, she's really impressed.
So Jim Rinder, today, September 21st, has confirmed that he would like me to sing this song at his service. It goes like this. Ding dong, Jim is gone, Jim is gone, Jim is gone. Ding dong, Jim is gone today. Jim is dead. Or, hooray! Or, hooray! He's gone. Get up! Everybody get up! I think you guys remember it, right? Okay, so here we go. 1, 2, 3. Ding dong, Jim is gone, Jim is gone, Jim is gone. Ding dong, Jim is gone today. Bum, ba, da, dum, bum. Jim is gone. Okay. Dad, you are the light of everyone's life. Hence the flashlights on the table. If Dad hadn't already given you 1, 2, or 3, he had more flashlights than anyone I know. He also had some Jimisms that you've heard today that we would like to leave you with, such as, hey Roy, bye Roy, no big deal, send me that picture, gotta go, bye, and then he would just hang up. And the best one was, be somebody. I hope two more sentences. I hope we made you proud today. People, if you would like, we have the hall. We knew that Dad's wouldn't be a short event. So people, you can stay and socialize if you would like. Thank you all for coming. And although a branch, and I didn't even talk to Frank about this, but I loved what you said, Frank. And although a branch has fallen from our family tree, we will honor you and hold on to the memories you have given us all until we meet again. So thank you all for coming. Have a great day.
goddamn thing. You think you're good, huh? Pull it. Give me it. Give me it. Give me it. Oh, you think you're good? Give me it.
Oh my God!
Pull. Come on, pull, you big pussy. You big pussy. You big pussy. God damn it.
Hey, go around the swimming pool. Let him know. When you guys, yeah. We have to go.
You're my little daughter, granddaughter. Hey,
Nicky?
I rode this for 4.5 hours. You still had power.
Nikki's coming down. She has her big thing tomorrow.
Which is?
Pass or die.
Finals for nursing? Oh, for her AA?
No, her bachelor's.
Get out.
Her bachelor's and her nursing degree.
Oh my God.
Fucking dog. Hey.
Grippy nose.
That's it. No?
Nicky, granddaughter Nicky.
I am beat up today. That was hard work all day.
Not my problem.
Not mine.
Good for you though. You got
What's
it.
the deal? Taco truck or
Not Acapulco.
what? Too expensive?
Can you give him a little more or no? Yeah.
With me for the party?
It's not that it's expensive, but like I just feel like a taco truck is easier.
Nicky's getting here. What's happening tomorrow?
Tours and nursing.
Nice. Tomorrow's a big day for the.
It is.
Bo- 7 a.m. Yeah. There's Lisa.